This video was voted by you guys. Thank you so much for all the votes on the community post. Coinciding with the release of this episode of Worst to Best, I have released another community post where you can vote for the first death metal band that I'm going to cover with Worst to Best coming up in 2021. So be sure to go over there on the community tab and vote for the band you would like to see the discography covered of. Virginia band Pig Destroyer. I've talked about them extensively. I've praised them a lot. What are their records ranked from worst to best? What records stand out the most for this hideous and terrifying band, pun unintended? I'm only going to be talking about their 5 main studio-length albums in this video, so that means compilations aren't going to be included, as well as splits aren't going to be included. Be sure to let me know in the comment section below what is your favorite Pig Destroyer record and what would your ranking go for their discography. Let's get right into it. For me, the fact that Headcage is ranked at the bottom of their discography is, if nothing else, a testament to just how good and solid their discography is overall, considering the fact that it's still better than a lot of extreme metal records nowadays, but it is so at the bottom. Headcage sees them going into more chunky and chuggy sections and varieties of extreme metal. I love the topics of Headcage. I really enjoy the lyricism and the way it's presented. I like the way that they put forward these very important topics, but listening to this record over and over throughout the years just showcases so many flaws, and it's glaringly the worst of their studio length. One-note riff writing, drum work that sounds way too thumping to match the rest of their tone, not the best vocal performance whatsoever. It's hard to feel as if Headcage isn't Pig Destroyer restraining their talents and what they are capable of and what they have done in the past and showcase they're able to do. And don't get me wrong, groove-centric songwriting is something that they have done very well in the past. We'll talk about that as this video progresses, but here it is mind-numbing at times. The only Pig Destroyer record that I just generally have trouble getting through from start to finish, with many tracks I would be apt to skip. It's still something in their discography that excites me for the future though, intrigues me of their sound, and makes me wonder if this is a direction that they're going to take in the future, because even though Octagonal Stairway last year, their EP, was a massive disappointment, it still showed a little bit of their old roots in a pretty prominent way, so examining Headcage as a benchmark point is pretty cool. And if they were able to take this and turn it into something that had finer details, this could be a cool sound later in their career. Sort of a resurgence point of sorts. Mosh, 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 mosh. Bookburner is Pig Destroyer taking their sound into such a mosh-friendly tone. More rolling micro-progressions, more grooves, more death metal. You know, as they have progressed, they have really taken a liking to more grooving type of riff styles, but Bookburner sticks out like a sore thumb as being the second record to Headcage that has the most straightforward, solid groove tone. While it's a record that's more than worth your time in their discography, I think it also exposes some of their least interesting grindcore songwriting and some of their most rudimentary structures, for lack of a better term. Despite that, it still has some fantastic vocal performances, some of their best that really do stick out prominently, and the mix of this record sounds great. I just think there are records in their discography that take this theme and sort of take it in more of an interesting direction. If their album Terrifier is the more updated, better produced version of Prowler in the Yard, then Phantom Limb is basically Terrifier if you doped it full of steroids, gave it a massive adrenaline rush, and told it to have a good time. Like, this record falls off a cliff screaming in the best way. Phantom Limb, in the band's own words, was their attempt at stringing together the most deranged assortment of tracks that they could possibly assort, and that shows. I really stand by this being Pig Destroyer's best record in terms of technicality and diversity. They really did embark on some unorthodox riff structures and just song structures for themselves up until this point, with tracks that really put more of a heavy focal point on death metal riffs, and tracks that functioned as entire movements as opposed to just a flurry of noise and static and grindcore absurdity that last less than a minute. Many of these tracks are quite short, some reach less than a minute, but the difference is on Phantom Limb, the progressions make them stand out more than, say, Terrifier and Prowler in the Yard that are much more straightforward. The amount that they packed into some of these tracks on Phantom Limb, how crazy and maniacal and chaotic they made them sound while still stringing together new ideas that were sort of untapped, just uncharted territory for the band, was awesome. The middle ground of clean and raw production, the odd approach to how they structured it. Phantom Limb really is one of my favorites of the band. Oh, holy shit. Choosing between number 1 and 2 was the hardest decision that I've ever had to make for a top 2 in any episode up until this point of Worst to Best. But number 2 is going to be Terrifier. Terrifier practically took everything off Prowler in the Yard, buffed up the intensity, buffed up the production, continued to explore more death metal-centric patterns, and took it in a whole new direction of aggression. The vocals are turned up a notch. The distortion feels intrinsic. The musical breakdowns are some of the most brutalized shit in grindcore that I have heard, such as on the track that comes to mind, Thumbsucker. The relentless nature of everything. It's fucking insane how much they were able to do in such a short period of time. They ironed out the group vocals and perfected the distortion on the main vocals. They had some very groovy sections, yet in their infancy, at times, their own intensity undersold them. Terrifier still easily ranks in the top 2, and it's very interchangeable depending on the day. But it is an impressive testament to the craftsmanship and how good the musicianship of Pig Destroyer is, considering that in such a short time, following up such a major release, such an influential release, they were able to do that on practically all fronts, and in some ways improve upon their own formulas. It's impressive to say the least. One of the most important grind releases of the 2000s, if not the most important grindcore release of the 2000s. An album so important that a deluxe reissue garnered an uptick in popularity once again so many years down the line. Among the cream of the crop of bands that arose in the late 90s and early 2000s, Pig Destroyer put themselves on the map with Prowler in the Yard for good reason. Not only is this a wonderful listen in its own right and one of the finest crafted grindcore records that you'll ever hear in your life, but it has also already stood the test of time. Continuing to influence, continuing to impress, ferocious lo-fi full of grit and vigor. Hell, I don't particularly like the reissue because I think it takes away from the quality of the original. I don't like the new production. Brutal Truth was a huge influence here. It really does show in the American isms of the grindcore scene that they called home. There's a reason this is an enduring classic, clear cut, a must listen for not only American grindcore, but grindcore and extreme music as a whole. Pig Destroyer was in their element like never before, like they have never been able to replicate, full of energy, fresh-faced, and ready to prove that they had what it takes to be a standout. Prowler in the Yard edges out Terrifier not only on influential merit and just legacy, but as a sonic grindcore experience that set the bar for years to come and will influence so many bands for so many years. But yeah, that is my discography ranking for Pig Destroyer. Thanks so much for voting. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know your ranking down in the comment section below. Can't wait to hear it. Be sure to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to join the review family today, and smash that notification bell to be notified of my future uploads. You know who it is. My name is Jay Morris, the Review Guy, and I'm signing off saying farewell.